Alrighty, no problem. Well, thanks for actually, taking over in such short notice because, as most of you guys know, there is a wee bit of a problem. Well, Viceroy has quite a bit going on in real life, so he couldn't be there. And Deadeye, as usual, being the good gentleman that he always is, very nicely took over and is broadcasting the interview for us. So thanks a lot, Deadeye. You're the bomb, as usual. And so, starting the interview over again, hi everyone, this is DJ Sakara, and we are having yet another one of our community interviews. And this week we have the pleasure of interviewing the Gentle Rest Inn Guild of Catskills. And to help us get to know them a little better, we have their Guildmaster Mouse and three of his elders who are Amoman, Helden, and Robespierre. I'm sorry, I'm going to be pronouncing your name the French way because that's how I've always learned it. But before we start the interview, I'm going to give every one of our guests a chance to introduce themselves so you guys get to recognize their voices a little better. So we're going to start with you, Hamelman, if you want to say hello.
Hello once again. I'm Ammo Man from GRI, General Rest Inn. Glad to be here.
Howdy. And Helden, if you want to say hello, and this time I'm not going to interrupt you.
Howdy, people.
Howdy to you too. And Mouse, if you want to say hi to all these good people.
Greetings, virtuous people of Soceria. We come in peace and bid you goodwill.
Oh, wait. You mean in my out-of-character voice?
In whichever voice.
All right. Well, this is my real voice.
So that was the very interesting introduction of Mouse. And Robespierre, if you want to say hi.
Hiya, folks, and you can call me Robs. That's what everybody else calls me.
Alrighty, Robs. And so these are our guests for today. And without any further delay, we're going to get right into the brunt of things. And we're going to start firing away some of these questions. And as usual, the first question is aimed at the Guildmaster. So, Mouse, are you the founder of the Gentle Rest Inn?
No, I'm not the founder of the Gentle Rest Inn. I came into the picture about 4 years ago and only became the GM about 3 years ago. The founder was a Portuguese fellow by the name of Peter, and he, back in the old days before Trammell, came to settle on a small peninsula in the north of U. And from there, he got in a guild called House Rosmar, which is one of the oldest guilds on the Shard. I'm not sure if they're still around on Catskills. But eventually, he had a house where I live now, except on the Felucca Shard, or Facet, rather. And what happened was, some of the people in the House Rosemar did not have the will to or the ability to fight the PKs. So Peter, being an anti-PK, began to set up guilds. Not all of them were the Gentle Rest Inn. They had various names, but finally we found the right formula and the right incarnation, and here we have the Gentle Rest Inn.
Cool. I'm going to have to ask you to talk maybe a little louder because our listeners are having a wee bit of a hard time to hear you. So you said you have been a GM for the past 3 years. So how long exactly has the guild existed? Is it 4 years, I think I heard you say?
Well, in this incarnation, the guild has been around for probably 4.5 or 5 years. But prior to that, a lot of the core members were working and trying to get the formula right for the guild we have today. And when we finally did get it right, we stuck with the General Rest Inn and didn't break the stone up into another instance.
Okay. Amo, you want to add something? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm as you said, an elder in the guild, and I've been associated with this guild for about 4.5 years. So it's been around for a while. I started out in a different guild when I first started, and I've been playing about 5.5 years. And this is probably the best guild I've been in.
Well, I would want to believe that it is, if you have been in the guild for this long. And, I guess the next question would be, what kind of a guild are you? Because I almost got totally pwned. For people who don't know, well, I don't totally want to spoil it, but, I actually assumed by reading your website that you guys were a role-playing guild. And I kind of found out, thank God, that you're not exactly a role-playing guild, even though Mouse kind of makes us wonder with his original introduction. So what kind of guild are you? Because I was kind of expecting to be interviewing a role-playing guild, but I think that's not what you are. So what are you guys exactly? Yes, Mouse.
I would best describe us as a circle of friends. We have interests in many aspects of the game, and we cannot be put into a single category. While we don't do RP a lot or strictly, we do have a little bit of RP flavor, and there are people from a RP background who can come into our guild and be comfortable. But we also are into crafting and PvP, and we like to champ a lot. So you really can't put this guild in a box, and I think that's one of the big appeals. There's something for everyone in the General Rest Inn.
Yes, Emma, go ahead.
I guess the best way to describe our guild is we're a group of people from around the world with the same ambitions, same goals, and same ideologies that came together, and we do many different things in the Sociarian world. But what's remarkable is the connectivity that we have, even though we haven't really seen anyone. And, we'll lay our lives down for anyone in this guild.
Yes, Rob.
Well, to go back a little bit with the role-playing, one, I got introduced to this guild through a member of my old guild who had a character in GRI. And after being introduced, sort of lost contact with her, and she ended up leaving GRI because she thought we were too much role-playing, too much my ladies, my lords. And yeah, we do have a little bit of that now and then, but that's not the main focus. However, my son was in a role-playing guild over on Napa, and one of the things with a role-playing guild is it seems the younger members at least put forth a level of maturity above what they normally may do when they're out on the street. And I think in General Rest Inn, you see that with everybody, is that we have a level of maturity that is just all the time.
Is there actually, what would you call the age, oh my God, would you average the age of your guild to be? Like, do you have people really from like a lot older and a lot younger, or is everyone pretty much in the same area as far as age is concerned? Yes, Emma.
The age group in this particular guild varies. We have young kids, 10, 11 years old, to older adults, 40, 50 years old. So the primary thing for our guild is maturity, and I think that speaks a lot of an individual.
Yes, Robes.
I was just wondering what
Player
you meant by a
left.
lot older. I just hit a half a century, and there are a couple guild members older than I am.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not actually gonna give a number for a lot older, because um, I'm a little too young to die. So I will spare myself. I'll take the fifth on that one. But you were mentioning that you have someone that left the guild because they felt that you were a wee tad bit too RP. But do you actually do RP stuff in the guild? But I mean, beyond you guys just saying like "Hail, my lady" and stuff like that from time to time, do you actually do role-playing stuff, role-playing activities or whatever?
I would say in the several years that I've been with the guild, I haven't seen too many role-playing things. We did have a wedding, well, what was that, a few weeks ago, a month ago, and that was the only thing that I saw in-game that was any type of role-playing.
Okay. And so what do you actually do on a daily basis? Like, I don't know, say if I'm a member of GRI, what would I be doing? Let's say I log on tonight. What could I expect to be doing? Yes, Ammo.
Anything your heart desires. That's the thing about GRI is you can be a loner if you want to be a loner, or you can call up your guild members and go out and fight Travesty, go out and fight Peerless. Uh, it's really no set rule set as far as getting together and do things. We have many different what we call wings of the guild. We have our tailors, our smiths, our fighters, our and different aspects of the game. You can just get in and log in, find out what's going on. If nothing's going on and you want to go do something, call a couple of people up in the guild chat, find out what they're doing. If they want to go out with you, you can go and kill Dark Fathers. We did that the other night. The many aspects of the game, we try to get everybody involved with everything that's going on.
Cool. Heldon, go ahead.
Well, Emma pretty much answered that for me, but I was going to say, when you log in, you ask yourself, what do I want to do today? Guaranteed somebody in the guild will be there to help you, whatever it is.
Cool. Robes, go ahead.
Just one more. It's sort of like the same thing everybody else has been saying, but usually when you first log on, of course you'll see what's in guild chat, but also go to the regular UO chat that it seems nobody else uses. You will almost always see a GRI chat room open starting at about 8 o'clock in the morning and well after I go to bed. You'll always find members in there.
Wow, that's actually quite fascinating. I don't think, I mean, I have used the UO chat maybe twice in the 8 years I have been playing this game. And it's actually surprising to hear any guild is actually using it. I think that's awesome. But I guess I'll ask you guys a bit more about it, but Mouse, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about that because in my opinion, that chat room is one of the things that really helped solidify our guild. It's really a cornerstone, and we've used it much to our success. I think that without it, we may not be where we are today. And the reason being is because before there were guild chat tools or everybody was up to speed on using a Ventrilo or a TeamSpeak, we could all find one another in the game world and have a central point of meeting to communicate and get any plans going and just to get to know each other and have fellowship with one another. So that old UO chat is really essential for us. And I also want to give a shout out to the devs and thank them a lot for supporting that in the recent patches, because they fixed a couple of bugs with it. I know it's not a heavily used part of UO, but for them to keep supporting that and make sure it runs well was important for our guild.
That is real nice. You see, I didn't even know they had been fixing anything in the chat. Like I said, I've used it maybe 2 times, at best maybe 3, but as far as I can remember, only twice. So wow, I'm blown away. You guys actually reminded me that this thing existed. I so have never used it. Ammo, go ahead.
Yes, just to piggyback on Mouse and Helden, just how important this chat window is to us. When a prospect to enter GRI as becoming a guild member, we require them to go in the guild chat window for 2 to 3 weeks and get to know the members that are there before they're actually inducted into the guild. So we place a lot of importance on that guild chat, and I think the latest bug was when you cross server lines, you would always, it would come up, you say you wasn't ignoring anyone anymore, but yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, the importance of the guild chat is, for our members, is to get to know the other members in the guild, and I think that's where our connectivity with one another comes together, is right there.
That is pretty neat. Mouse, I'm going to let you make your comment, and then I have another question regarding that guild chat. Go ahead, Mouse.
I just wanted to throw in that the reason we do it that way is because other people who are not already in the guild and can't use the guild chat, now that we have that and it's a primary communication tool, people who aren't in the guild can come in there and be connected to us. So they don't have to, they'll know where to find us in the world and know how to commune with us. So it's good for strangers to meet us, and if anybody has a distress call, they can come in there and get help from our guild as well.
That is pretty neat, but like I said, I haven't used it in such a long time. I seem to recall one of the main reasons I didn't like using it was because it took so much space on your desktop, on your client basically, and it was kind of in the way when you're you're trying to see what you're doing and whatever. So do you guys actually have a way of setting it up so that it doesn't interfere with your gameplay? Yes, Robes.
Yeah, it is resizable, and the way that I've done it, actually I posted on our forum what my screen looked like so that people could see. I have it down in the corner, and you don't see a lot of what's going on, but you can always scroll back and see what the conversation was beforehand. So between the guild chat, and we also make more use, not as much as we could, of UO Automap, we can pretty much find anybody at any time.
Yeah, UO Automap is the bomb. We definitely use that, especially since we actually play Feluca mostly, so in the middle of a battle, it's good to be able to just like group together without having to go for like 20 minutes. Where are you? Where are you? You know, I'm like, just west of that tree, that's south of that other rock, that's, kind of thing. So, Helden, go ahead.
Yeah, AutoMap is definitely a lifesaver.
Oh yes, it rules. Once I found out how it worked and how to use it, I've become addicted. Yes, ammo.
But if you're familiar with the territory, those country instructions on how to get there are perfect.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's just that sometimes, having to type all that can be, the difference between getting massively ganked and actually just like saying quickly in TeamSpeak, I'm getting ganked, and everybody can just look at the map and go like, okay, she's exactly there, and the entire crew can just like zero in on you and come to the rescue just before you take that dirt nap. So that, yeah, that rules. Yes, Mouse.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what Rob's kind of said. He inferred that our auto map is underused, and it is. And I want to tell all my guild people listening out there, use the freaking auto map, please. We set it up for you. It's a great tool. You can use it to chat, to communicate, you group together. No more, where are you, like Sakara said. This is Mouse jumping down your throat. Get on the map. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Served. Heldon, go ahead.
One more auto map comment. Usually it's the difference between, I don't know, keeping your corpse and losing your corpse when you die. I mean, if your guild can't see where you are, we get those stupid instructions on, oh, the peninsula over here, and never do find them.
Oh yeah, I cannot agree more, and it's just kind of hilarious and in a way comforting, I guess, because, what Mouse just said to his guild members, you have no idea how many times I have had to bang my own head on the wall just trying to get my own guild members to start using it. Like, half of them always have an excuse, oh, it lags my computer, it's this or that. But, down the road, once they start using it, they're like, dang, this thing rocks. Especially, as you were mentioning, when you're about to lose your suit because you run out of insurance or whatever, and, you're trying to make it back to your body, or you need somebody to come res you or whatever, and nobody knows where you are, especially in the Lost Lands. I mean, if you're in town or in a dungeon or whatever, it's kind of easier, but in the Lost Lands, it's huge. And so you want to get on that map. Yes, Emma.
You mentioned that a lot of the reason a lot of people don't use UO Automap or Ventrilo or TeamSpeak is because it has a tendency to lag. And it may be a valid or invalid excuse. I guess it would depend on the RAM of your computer. But I'm being asked, Shakira, if you don't mind, what guild you're in.
DEI on Atlantic.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah. Alrighty. Um, oh my God. See, now I think you did it to me. Remember how you had that slight blank earlier? Now it's hitting me. And I know I wanted to ask one last question regarding that UO chat, but I can't remember what the heck it is. Well, one comment I do want to make about it is that I do know you can make some private channels um, that you can basically have passwords on them. But am I to assume that yours is always public, or do you ever, or is yours private? Yes, Emma.
Ours is always public. However, we try to have, I guess you'd call them administrators in it. So if someone comes in and starts, with bad language or putting down the guild or things of that nature, not being respectful, we have the ability to boot them out of the chat. And if they keep coming back, then at that time, we'll build a private room and tell all the guild members, okay, we need to go in a private room for a little while. We have a guy, who's being disrespectful, and we need to keep him out of here.
Unfortunately, there always seems to be one of those in there. Um, oh God, I hate this. I know, just as you were saying that, I was thinking, there is one last thing I wanted to ask, but there it goes, going blank again. Go ahead, Mouse.
If you want, I can take over for you. I've got some points I want to speak on.
I do have a lot more questions. Just I wanted to cover this one about the chat. But oh yeah, the last question about the chat before we move on is do the chat do you only see the people on your server, or is this like UOY? Do you guys know? Yes, Mouse.
That's just going to be on the server. It's not UO-wide, so And that was one of the problems earlier, was that when you crossed a server line for the sub-servers, it would boot you out, and that's one of the bugs they fixed for us.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Now, the next question I have for you guys is regarding recruiting policies, because you kind of touched on that by mentioning that people that want to join your guild have to basically hang out in your UO chat for a few weeks to get to know everybody and whatnot. So, besides that, what else are your recruiting policies, and what kind of people do you guys look for, and what kind of people, I guess, might end up hitting a wall if they were to try to join your guild? Yes, Robes.
The second question of who would we look at or who might hit the wall are cool dudes don't need to apply. We may have a little bit of a problem with that. One of the major points of GRI is respect, and a lot of times those guys just don't have the respect, and they do a lot of griefing. But as far as the recruiting policies, one is, of course, to be in chat and get to know us. Two is to get yourself involved. If you hear that there's a hunt going on, don't be afraid to ask if you can come along. We'd love to take you out. And the other third big one is to go onto our forums and read what's going on in there, and just see if the sound of it is what you would like to do, if we have the same thoughts and desires that you do.
Fair enough. So should they always expect to have like a few weeks, I guess, delay before they're allowed in, a few weeks, like, get to know you, or can they actually be gilded temporarily during that time? Go ahead, Mouse.
No, we try to apply it across the board and make sure that everyone, be it your wife or a stranger that you met at the U gate, they all have to stay in there and get to know us and show us that they're the kind of person that is cut out to be in GRI. Now, we have 3 rules. Rob's told you basically how to get in touch with the guild, how to communicate with us and see if we're a fit. But we also have 3 basic, I guess you'd call it prime directives. They're common sense to a lot of people, but you'd be surprised how many people don't have much common sense these days. First would be no cursing or foul language. And we don't mind if you have a little bit of that in privacy with somebody that you're comfortable with and is comfortable with you using that kind of language. But as soon as a third party, a lady, a stranger that you don't know as well, enters the fray, you're not gonna speak in foul language and last in our guild very long. The second rule would be pretty obvious again: no killing or looting of members. And the third would be respect. And that means not only to respect your guild mates, but to respect the newbies, to respect your enemy you're fighting in Feluca. I don't have a lot of tolerance for people who are doing a bunch of trash talking. New player. Kind of thing. It's more important to me that you lead by example and show your enemy some kindness and some respect, and hopefully garner that kind of response.
Yes, that is a really important thing. I guess it's kind of strange because, you're saying how these are all really basic common sense requirements. That's one of the words I have a really hard time saying in English. But it is surprising for how many people this is almost surprising when you interview them and you're like, oh my goodness, they don't seem to understand that killing your guildmate is not okay. They don't seem to understand that using the F word every other word is not cool. And yet some of them really think that, well, it's nothing wrong. I'm just cussing a little bit. Yeah, well, I don't necessarily want to hear all that cussing. And you're right. It can be fairly surprising how people react to certain things. Go ahead, Emma.
Just to piggyback on that, killing your guildmates, when we first find out if someone is killing their guildmates, they'll get warned. And if they repeat the offense, they get booted, no questions asked, and they won't be asked back. And that's the whole respect thing. If you don't respect your guildmates enough not to kill them while they're sitting at the bank doing whatever, you don't need to be in our guild.
Yeah, that's probably the worst thing. Killing people AFK, that just like, oh, God, I hate people that do that. Go ahead, Matt.
I would just really say that there's not even going to be a warning as far as I'm concerned. Every instance has its own particular qualities, and depending on the way something went down, I might make an exception. But if somebody's killing and looting a guild member or killing someone AFK, they're pretty much out of there.
I'm reassured to hear you say that, actually. I was like, huh. So you can basically get to kill me once and then maybe get to kill me twice. I agree. First time is enough in my book, too. But last question regarding recruiting. Basically, people have to be in your chat and everything for like a few weeks. But do they get to go with you guys on your hunts and whatever else that you're doing? Yes, Robes.
Oh, absolutely. They have to be in the chat for 2 or 3 weeks, but some of these people have come in and within 2 days, I'm going to say they're guild members without the tag. I mean, they've just clicked. Everything has gone right, and so they're on hunts. And one of the other things we didn't say about the guild is that we have a concept of spinning, which is sort of I'll put stuff in there for you and I'll help you out, but somewhere along the line you go and help somebody else out. And if somebody comes into that chat and it just clicks, then I have no problem giving them a full set of armor and some good weapons, and then hopefully down the line they're going to do the same for somebody else.
That is pretty neat. Go ahead, Emma.
I guess I'm going to do a lot of piggybacking on this because they hit a lot of points. When I first joined this guild 4.5 years ago, Peter was in and Mouse was there, and they took me in like a brother, and they didn't know who I was. I got stat scrolls, I got power scrolls, I got armor, weapons, everything I could ever want, and just joining the guild. So now I make it a point that if anyone, returning the favor, if anyone needs armor or weapons or anything like that, I'll take them to my house and I'll build them a 70 suit and give it away and won't think twice about it, or give them a weapon, the best that I got, and not think twice about it. Some of our guild members have the Blade of Insanity. I can remember individual paying 2 or 3 mil for it and just gave it to me, and I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I was floored when that happened.
Well, that certainly goes a long way in creating very strong ties between members when you have that kind of support between the members. It's pretty cool. Rose, did you want to say something, or you'll pass?
No, well, I did want to say, back in the days before it was so easy to get a house, that was one of the other things. People would come into the guild, and one of the first questions is, do you have a house? And they'd say no, and we'd find them one. Even if it was a little marble somewhere, a little 2-story marble, we'd get them a house and give it to them for free.
That is pretty neat. I remember those good old days, but things have changed so much now. But it's awesome that you guys still have that kind of environment and a support group, I guess, for your members. Yes, Amo.
To go along with that, one of our members just recently got PK'd, and this is a prime example of the camaraderie and the tight group that we have. This individual, I don't think, was experienced in the PK world or PvP world, and he pretty much got ganked, and somehow, whether he didn't insure it or whatever the case may be, he lost a weapon. And as soon as the guild found out that he lost that weapon, we found out the individual who took it, talked to that individual, and we bought that weapon back immediately for that member. And on top of that, we gave him insurance money, the person who lost the weapon, to insure that weapon so it doesn't happen again.
That is great. Unfortunately, we've seen the insurance bug happen so many times where people lose entire suits, and sometimes not even because they ran out of insurance. I mean, when you run out of insurance, it's frustrating, but, in a way you can say, well, I should have known. But when you have plenty of insurance money and it's really through no fault of your own, and you see your entire suit just drop and get looted, that's like so devastating, especially when you have certain people that have suits that are worth a fortune, people with those 100% LRC 70 resist with max LMC and whatnot, and you're like, oh my god. Eldon, go ahead.
What are you talking about? There's no insurance bug. Yeah, right.
That's right. Yeah, right. Ammo, go ahead.
Yeah, there is an insurance bug out there, but there is a way to fight that. In your options, there's an option to push the shift button when you need, for whatever reason. I know it's in there. You push the shift button. I don't know exact terminology, but it prevents somewhat from that happening. And when that was a big problem back a couple of months ago, we advised our guild members to initiate that option, and that pretty much cut down or eliminated the insurance bug. So if anybody out there, is losing things due to the insurance, that's a way to prevent that from happening.
And you do what? You just hit the shift button?
Yeah, there's an option in your paper doll that you can click. You have to use the shift button to insure it or uninsured or something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology. Maybe Heldon can help me out.
Go ahead, Heldon.
Under the mouse tab on your on options, it's the hold shift for context menus.
And what does that do exactly? I'm just a little confused.
I'm not sure exactly how it stops them, but I haven't been hit with it since I've started using it.
Oh, okay. Mouse, go ahead.
Player left.
Apparently, some people were able to cause the insurance bug to happen by accessing another character's context menus, and I guess using the shift click had something to do with that. And of course, I don't know anything about the whole deal, and if I did, I wouldn't complete it all. But like Ammo said, if anybody's out there having that problem, that's one way to safeguard yourself, and I hope that helps somebody.
Oh, wow. That's pretty neat. I didn't know that. Guess I'm going to start doing that because I got a pretty good suit, and I would hate to lose it. Go ahead, Ammo.
Right. We all spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, gathering gold and trying to find the right pieces to put the suit together to get all 70s, or like you said, 100% LRC with max LMC, or you hate to lose one piece and you get all bent out of shape. But that workaround for that insurance bug is also on the UO website.
Thanks for that info. I will definitely look into it. Now, moving on to a different question. And this one is, do you guys ever venture in Felucca? I know you kind of mentioned champ spawns, but do you actually do the fel spawns? Yes, Haldon.
We used to be heavy into the champ spawning. I myself haven't been joining in too much lately, but since you ask, I'm actually in fel right now, playing around.
Okay. Ammo.
A lot of us live in fel. A lot of us play in fel. The reason we quit doing champ spawns, in my opinion, is we had a problem with a guild out there that would camp the champ spawns using Ghost, and every time we get right up to the point of,
and from here on out, we should be good.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, that kind of sucked. But anyways, we're back, so let's get down to business. Ammo, go ahead.
To where we were talking about champ spawns and fell and run around and fell. With the new facets of the game, a lot of us are in Ish. We travel all of them, actually. But to get back on champ spawns, GRI quit doing champ spawns pretty much unless we do them early in the morning. It's a small group. This will tie into being allied with other guilds, which I believe you want to go into sometime later in the interview. But we Reds were ganking us pretty much at chap spawns, and we've posted and nothing was being done. And I have to give the dev team a head IDO or something like that for giving us the ability to get rid of the ghost camping the spawns. It did cut down on the invasions, and we were able to restart our champ spawns there for a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, the exorcism only works if you're really like next to the altar. So right now, what we're finding out the hard way, because since my own guild is a champ spawn guild, is that people only stand like a screen and a half away from the altar, and they're still ghosting the same way, and they can see exactly what level we're at, and so we're pretty much back to square one. So I hope the dev team is going to expand the entire exorcism area to the entire champ spawn area, and hopefully that'll fix it once and for all. Mouse, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we have successfully done hundreds of champion spawns, and that's one of the most fun things that we do. And we still pull them off, and there have been plenty of times where we've dominated our opposition or given as good as we got, and came away with a handful of the scrolls, but nobody got a decisive victory. So just wanted to make it clear that we're not the redheaded stepchild of Feluca or anything like that. We do okay.
Okay, Ammo, go ahead.
Oh, Mouse, you come up with some winners. Talking about champ spawns, I noticed that a lot of people aren't doing the Ish champ spawns, and I'm kind of wondering, I know for me personally, it's just a pain to lose your karma and fame, and I don't know, put this out there, it might be because of, when you hit these creatures on Ish or in Ish that you lose your karma and fame, and they just don't want to do that. Or I also heard that the Ish champs were broke. Just wondering if dev team was ever going to work on that and get people over in Ish more often.
Actually, they fixed those. They didn't work in the sense that the spawn rate would decrease so drastically the higher you got that it was impossible to spawn. I remember the last time we tried to do Oaks in spirituality, we would get to level 2 or 3, and then it would take over an hour just trying to get to level 4 because creatures would spawn once every 5 minutes or so, and so the candles kept resetting over and over and over again. So that was the biggest problem. Their explanation of this was that the spawn had wandered off and that you needed to find the creatures and go kill them in order to be able to level. I'm not sure that I buy this explanation, but whatever. So now supposedly they do work, but the big problem with it is that they don't drop anything, and so except for a small pile of gold. And as far as karma goes, the only spawn that should make you lose karma is Oaks, and that does it everywhere. And also the new one now in the Twisted Wilds, because it's based on the same kind of principle as Oaks. where you have to fight positive karma creatures. So, but every other spawn should not make you lose karma. Yes, Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you hit on it on what they dropped. If the champs drop different items, like real good weapons or I know you got power scrolls in Fell, but if they come up with an item that the players thought was worth fighting that champ for, like you said, sometimes 2-3 hours, those champs might get fought more often.
Oh yeah, I have whined and complained plenty about that on Stratix, but it's like, what can you do? You can only hope and pray. I hope they're going to do something about the ill spawn. I hope they're going to do something about the Twisted Welds and the Bedlam spawn, but we'll just have to wait and see. Mouse, go ahead.
Well, they really drank the Kool-Aid on that if they think that we believe that the monsters all just wandered off. I mean, there are like hundreds of them. Probably next they'll be telling us like there's no Bigfoot or aliens aren't among us or something.
Probably. So besides spawns, since you guys really don't do Fel spawns much anymore, do you do anything else in Fel? Like, do you guys fight in you or just, factions? Go ahead, Ammo.
There's a couple of us that hang out in U around the gate there. We PvP a bit, and there are some of us, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that are still in factions. But I think either factions got boring to them and they left, or they just quit for whatever reason. But yeah, we go into factions every night, or not factions. We go into U and Fellside, and we PvP the Reds and gank the Greys, or however you want to say
it. Yeah, I just find it interesting you say gank the Greys, but Robes, go ahead.
Well, besides ganking Greys and doing the champs, I know that there's quite a few of us that go in as crafters to pick up the extra resources. So we are out there. We're not scared. Although we're basically a Trammel guild, we're not scared to go over onto the Fell side and do our gathering there. And as far as factions, there's been a revival of some sorts, it seems, with 3 or 4 members getting faction characters going over there. So maybe someday factions will get back to what it was.
Mouse, go ahead.
Player left.
I'm getting some reports over ICQ that we're off the air again. So I might want to look into that.
Oh, brother, you're kidding. I'm actually asking the guys in IRC if they can still hear us. Yep, they say they still hear us. Maybe they want your friend on an ICQ might want to close their Windows player or whichever way they're listening to it and start it over. Then maybe it was from before.
All right. Well, just trying to keep us on keel. Thank you, and I'm glad there's no problem.
No problem. Okay, so actually, I was kind of wondering, because you were talking about factions and everything, and one question I always have for Trammel-based guilds is, do you miss chaos and order? Because it was, in a way, the factions of Trammel. And when they removed that, I think there's one, I'm trying to remember which shard still has it. Oh god, I wish I remembered now. I think maybe it's Chessie. I know there's one shard that still has chaos and order system still going. And I was kind of wondering, for you guys, would you, if they were to bring back chaos and order versus doing factions, which is basically just, would you guys go for that? Yes, Halden.
I seriously doubt it. Just because a large portion of our guild doesn't PvP, and there's no way to, stay safe, I guess, and try and if you were doing the Chaos Order.
True. Got a good point there. Ammo, go ahead.
Some of us, not all the guild, but some of us who PvP would probably go into factions as well, just for a different experience. But that would be a very, very small group of us.
Okay. Mouse.
I was thinking that we really need them to get rid of that beneficial acts coding that has to do with factions, I believe. Seems like nobody really plays factions, and I'm not out for harming factions further or killing it, but it detracts from the main player base, healing and whatnot and resin people in Feluca. So I'd like to see them make some code that is strictly for factions, because the deal was people were having a blue non-faction healer or something like that, keep them up while, and it was unfair, while keeping them untackable. So I'd like them to approach that and take a look at it, because it's a pain in the neck for allies or people who are unofficial allies or just working together in a pickup game to get together and really have any teamwork going.
Oh, you have a big fat amen coming from this girl, because believe me, I go crazy with that darn beneficial acts, especially as a foul player. Every single time we go into battle, if somebody is not in your guild or in your alliance, you can't res them, you can't heal them, you can't do squat if you have been in any way involved in any kind of fighting. And it is very frustrating. And yeah, I agree. It was, as I understand, it was also for that reason. It was because
New
of factions
player.
and all the blue healers and whatnot. But I mean, surely they can find a way to attach it solely to faction members and not extend it to every player, because it is extremely frustrating. Yes, Mouse.
I just wanted to say that I think it'd be nice if we could have a guild position or a way of setting a guild member as being a non-combatant. That way, larger guilds who don't want to give up what they've worked for years to establish, even small guilds have a hard time getting it together and making something that works for them. And if you don't want everybody in the guild to be PKable on site, you kind of either have to take it or leave it. I'm sure we'd love to be a faction guild or an order or chaos guild and allow 50% of our players to take part in that. But the way they have it set up, it's prohibitive. And so to be able to mark, my wife or some kids or something like that as a non-combatant, or somebody who's interested in crafting and is friends with us and doesn't want to get involved in being PK'd at the bank. If we could make them a non-combatant and have the rest of the guild enjoy the game, that would be spectacular.
Awesome. I'm going to have to ask you to speak a little louder, but you're actually touching on something that kind of fits in the next question I was going to ask you. And I will want to add a bit to what you just said, but Robes, I'm going to let you say what you wanted to say.
Well, I just didn't want to go any more on the factions and the beneficial part, but you had asked about order and chaos and whether or not we would go into something like that. And we didn't touch on one of the aspects of our guild, which is probably the most important. Now, we've talked about it in the beginning, and that's that we're a big family. And one of our activities is just sitting around shooting the breeze, and we do that an awful lot. We may not always be out doing a hunt. We may just be hanging out and talking and catching up on what happened in real life and what happened in game. And So it takes a little bit away if we know we're going to be sitting at the bank and a bunch of chaos would be running by if we're order and all of a sudden we get into a fight. So we also lost some members when we really got pushed more onto the PvP side to try and defend ourselves at spawns. Some of our members said, we're just getting too much into the PvP side and GRI isn't for me, and left. So if they're out there listening, please come back. We really miss you and want you.
I hear you. It's kind of funny because in my guild, it's the other way around. When ML came out and, a bunch of us really were into that whole questing thing and, just experimenting, that whole try me stuff, as the guys would call it. We ended up losing people because they were like, oh my god, you guys are turning into Tramies and we just want a PvP.
New player.
And they're not getting that PvP doing the peerless bosses, so it is not always easy, I guess, to try and cater to everyone's needs in the guild. But the next question I was going to ask you was, what do you think would make Felucca more enticing to your members and to your guild, generally speaking, and I guess indirectly, what would it take for you to want to join factions or any other such more PvP oriented kind of in-game activity? And you were mentioning having the ability to put a different kind of tag on people, and I don't want to just take over this whole thing, but I have to say this has been a big deterrent for us to actually have wars. We've had a number of guild wars, but every single time it's been a big problem doing that because we have to make sure that absolutely every last one of our members are aware that, at certain time we're going to be warring and therefore we're going to be orange and therefore attackable by, any member of that other guild wherever we are. Obviously, even though we're a champ spawn guild, not all our members are PvPers, and that has made it difficult for us to have more wars than the number we've had thus far. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with that one. But go ahead, Rose.
I think I just had the blank mind here. Oh, you said what would we want to see in Felucca? I just want a fair chance. I have no problem going out, and I have no problem getting killed until I learn how to PvP really well. But I do have a problem with people who are using third parties, programs or exploits or other things to gain an unfair advantage. And I also understand that maybe a lot of those people that I think are doing that are just much, much better than I am. But that also goes along with the whole issue on artifacts, on, you have something better than me and I'm not going to camp Doom for another year in order to get it or make 50 million gold to buy it. Where does that leave us? How am I going to be able to keep up with you? So a little bit more even playing field, and I'd be out there every day.
I hear you there. Mouse, go ahead.
Amen to that, Robs. That is really crucial. A lot of people out there are using those programs, and we don't embrace that too much. And it's a different thing, in my personal opinion, to go out and 8x8 some skills up than it is to beat somebody in field combat, because I just think I don't know what makes it so much of a difference, but when you're taking something from somebody away directly like that, getting that advantage unfairly, it really kills it. Now, as far as some things about getting us into Felucca more and other people into Felucca more, I think Rob's hit another nail on the head right there when he says that PvP is just prohibitive to get into. You've got all these suits, all these skills, the latest template, you just got nerfed or whatever. And I just think they need to make it more user-friendly. Little bugs like the party bars being so terrible, targeting problems like your targeting cursor disappearing, or a teleport bug where you can't, teleport away to another area because it won't accept the tile you want, which looks perfectly good to me. It may be somewhere different on the z-axis. All that comes into play, and I really think they could save the game if they improved some of these things and made it more user-friendly so that everybody who came in didn't have to be a killer script kid or something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really hard trying to hit that balance where people that want to PvP can PvP to their heart's content, and have a fair fight of it, and not, well, I'm not going to get started on the word of death thing. Otherwise, I'm just going to go off on a rant that will just never ever end. But go ahead, Ammo.
I was going to say that if you wanted more people in Fell, Rob's hit the nail on the head. Equal the ability for all players. I believe it was pre-AOS. Me and a guildmate, we just run around and Fell. And if we came across somebody that, all right, we're killing them, and, two of us would take them out, even if they had healers. To me, pre-AOS was a more level playing field as far as PvP is. And I just think that, if they went back to that, it would be a lot better. And also to get away from item-based abilities like, the Doom artifacts. Don't let them have so much power in your character's template. Make it more about skills. Back, like I said, pre-AOS, when me and Kanoa used to go around, we just wandered around Fell, and we stayed there all the time. And when I first, been many years ago, but I lived in Tram, didn't know really anything about Fell, and we just went around, and it was just hack until somebody died. I think a better level playing field as far as character templates, get away from the item-based things, and go back to pre-OS. I think that would actually bring more people to Fell.
Well, you have my vote there. There's no doubt in my mind that pre-OS PvP was by far a lot better than what we have right now. But okay, we're going to be moving on to a different question. And this one is, do you guys have any actual alliances? Because I know you were talking about Feluca when we were doing the champ spawns and whatnot. But do you have any allies, whether formal or informal? And by this I mean, are you green to any other guild? And since you don't really spawn much anymore, if you are, what benefit is there really for you in that sense? Yes, Ammo.
I hit on this, and I knew you were going to come to it about allying other guilds. Our objective at the time we allied, and Mouse can correct me on this if I misinterpreted, was to have the guild that we allied with was a protector when we did champ spawns. They would come in and kill the guild that was coming in killing us. Also, in the allied thing, the guild that we unofficially are allied with is, if you don't mind, I'll say DB4. That whole Benny thing, if you're not officially allied with these individuals for whatever reason, you can't res them. So, and like area effect spells, they hit you even though, that individual in that guild's not meaning to do that. So, there's a lot of things as far as the alliance goes that could, in my opinion, be changed and made a little different.
I hear you there. Mouse, go ahead.
Right, yeah, we were in a large alliance, the largest on the shard, and I only recently had to drop it because we had a problem with somebody doing an incognito killing kind of deal, um, and it had happened like once before, so I decided, the other guilds needed to kind of clean it up, clean their house a little bit, but we still view these people as allies, and hopefully in the future we can find a way to get back green to them. Now I was thinking the whole thing with non-combatants ties into that. If you could make some of your players not be a part and not be able to just become a non-combatant suddenly when they're getting a big flame strike, dropped on their head, that would be a bonus. But we are allied to DB4 in the sense that's death before dishonor, um, and I think it's not so much for protection really. I always looked at it as we did need some extra muscle, but I like to look at it as a partnership, and we have been on champ hunts with them and helped them pull off their objectives. So I think it kind of goes both ways.
Okay, you're really, really fading away. The more you talk, the lower your voice becomes. So it's getting really hard to hear. I'm having a hard time, so I'm assuming that the listeners are probably having an even harder time. So if you can really try to talk a lot closer to your mic and as loud as you can, that would help. But yeah, I totally support that idea of being able to have people as non-fighters in your guild. Obviously not so that they could do it right in the middle of battle. I think you would have to be unflagged. Pretty much as is currently the case right now. As long as you're flagged aggressor, you cannot enter houses or recall or whatever. Um, and otherwise I think as long as the person has flagged out and is able to recall away from the situation, then they should be able to turn themselves as non-fighters, so that if you want to take part in a war or whatever, you can, but if you have to leave or whatever, you can just like turn yourself off or whatever, or even if there's a slightly longer delay, it wouldn't be so bad. But it would be great for people to have that option because, even like ourselves right now, we had some of our members that wanted to go factions, and the thing is, we're like, okay, but we don't all want to be factions. Only some of us want to. And then we're like, well, can we ally so that our characters, because some of our members wanted to use their faction characters to, some of their champ spawning characters to also go factions. They're like, yeah, but if I do that, when I come spawning with you guys, you can't heal me, you can't res me, you can't whatever. So this sucks. How do we make it work? And I remember at the time, I don't know if it's changed since, but at the time, you could not ally with a guild that's not aligned the same way you are. So if they are factioned and we're not, we couldn't be allies. I don't know if that's changed since, but that was the big problem back then. Heldon, go ahead.
I'm just going to add, we pretty much removed ourselves from the alliance just to protect our Trammel-based members. Unofficially, I'm pretty sure we're still have a loose alliance with the guilds that we were allied with. Like in Fel, we'll go around TK, but we won't, kill each other. We'll team up against other people, whatever.
Okay, Ammo, go ahead.
You were talking about factions and being able to fix the character so they aren't attacked. In my opinion, that ought to stay as far as the Trammel side, and in Fel, it just it's all out, because basically, from my understanding, that's what Fel was created for. And then the champ spawns came to get people to go over there more often. I could be wrong, but I think it ought to be you're attackable or non-attackable in tram, and you're just fend for yourself and fell. You know, when you go to fell, we all know the risk and the consequences of going over there. So, you know, if you don't think that you can handle it, or, you know, I'm not saying, you know, not trying to degrade anyone, but if you can't go over there in a group, then, you know, don't go, because you know the consequences if you come across a red and he wants to kill you.
Oh yes, I fully agree. You know, people often ask that there should be a PvP switch, and I have always been of the opinion that the PvP switch is the facet. You go to Fel, you basically consent to potentially be attacked. If you can't handle it, then don't go to Fel. That is your switch right there. And I also fully support that you should be able to attack anyone in Fel with whatever consequences come with it. You should be able to loot anyone in Fel. This whole beneficial act thing should not be there. And, you know, it just, when, you know, I go to loot a corpse, whether be it a monster or a player or whatever, and it tells me that I did not earn looting rights, or I do not have the right to loot that corpse. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We're in Feluca. We're not in Tram. But, oh well. Mouse, go ahead. Mousy. I think we lost Mouse. Ammo, go ahead.
Also, we were talking about Fel and looting rights. I'd like to give a shout out to the dev team to fix the looting your guildmate. I don't think it's been fixed yet, but if you loot your guildmate, you go gray and then you get ganked. I don't see, you know, they need to fix that, and they need to fix it quick.
Yeah, I got ganked a few times because of that, but I think it's fixed now. Well, you can't loot them anyways anymore, unless they actually remember to flip it, to switch it so that people in your party can loot you. But otherwise, I don't think you can loot. Period. Oh, I understand the idea behind it all, but the way it functions is not the best. Yes, Ammo.
I'm with you on that. I'm not sure. I know that when I get in party, regardless of whether they're guild members or not, you know, granted you need to flip the switch on that. But if I'm not in party and guildmates are running around and they die and I go to try to loot to save their stuff, I turn gray, and then whoever's around me ends up killing me. And that's happened recently, so I don't think they fixed that yet.
Yeah, you're quite right. It's quite possible. I'm just grateful that now most of my guildmates have, you know, 70 LRC suits, so that is less of a problem. The most common problem we have is the Dexters that are out of age. But besides that, we really haven't had the need to loot each other's bodies. But most of the time now, we just hit the can't loot because he didn't switch it in his party. So, oh well. Moving away from that, my next question is, do you guys organize PvP events? Like, do you have PvP tournaments? Do you have, I don't know, have you ever done any war against other guilds?
Catch mouse.
Yes, Rob.
Let me hit the first part. Is do we organize any PvP? We do have, or we did have, a first night tournament once a week where all the Dexters would come out and we would have a fight on a tier level. And that worked out pretty well, and I guess once we really started going over and PvPing and Fel, that sort of fell by the wayside because we were over there beating up on other people more than we were trying to beat up on each other. As far as organizing between guilds, we haven't had anything like that.
Okay. Robes. Oh, I'm sorry. You just answered that, didn't you? Because your channel is still on. Okay, you're done. Welcome back, Mouse. Alrighty, next question. This one regards Mundane Legacy. A number of guilds have been really affected by this expansion when it came out. I know, as I was mentioning a little earlier, being a fel-based guild, it had a really adversary effect on my guild because people were basically not happy. The more PvP-oriented members were not happy that so many spent so much time doing the quests instead of doing champ spawns or whatever would keep us in Fel and in the heart of the PvP action. In your case, has ML helped brought your guild closer together, or has it made people scatter more, or has it really not have any kind of real impact on you? Yes, Halden.
I think anytime the new content comes out, I mean, any guild, it doesn't matter, they're going to separate just because everybody is going to try out all the new stuff they can. With the Pure List, though, at least it brought us together. The questing, it took us apart. Take your pick. It's going to wane after a while. Everybody will get their stuff, and they'll be happy and come back to the guild. But I think overall it's a bad thing just because it's introduced even more item-based play into the game.
I definitely see what you mean there. Robes, go ahead.
I agree that with the Peerless, it's definitely brought us closer together in that organized Peerless hunts are going on in the guild all the time. As far as the questing, we did go out on our own, took our crafters down into Heartwood to do the quests and get the recipes. But one thing it did do, I touched on earlier, is the concept in GRI of spinning, where you help me and I help you. We have what we call spinning bags, and we would take all the recipes that we would get that we didn't need and throw them into a bag, and then other crafters in the guild wouldn't have to go and do those quests. They could just pull from the bags. So we were really helping each other out when we did those quests to get all of it. And that went for like all the high-end bows and everything else that took a little bit longer, Scrapper's Compendium. Those went into a bag, and people were able to pull those out and get those onto their crafters.
That is pretty neat. I remember how we were scrambling in the early days to get all these recipes so that we too could craft all these items for our own guild members. Yes, Emma, go ahead.
Piggybacking again, I guess you could say that we did scatter as far as when the quest came out, but we scattered with an objective, and that was, like always, to benefit the guild.
So in the end, it's not so bad. I know that Mouse had a few things he wanted to cover. It's just because time is flying, and we're already less than half an hour before the end of the interview. And so before I go on to my other questions, are there any specific things that you want to tell us about your guild that I have not covered that you want to go over now, or should I just proceed with the other questions? Yes, Rose. I think Mouse is having a bit of a hard time. Go ahead, Rose.
Two things. One, Mouse is having a bit of a hard time getting on. I got an ICQ that he's having problems. The other thing is, no, go ahead and ask the questions because I think we're pretty well covered things.
Oh, okay. Goody. All right. And this is, I think this question, Mouse, somewhat covered it. Well, at least one aspect with the non-combatant thing, but to me that's more Fel. But as far as Trammel-wise, as a Trammel guild, what do you think would make the game a lot more interesting for you? Like, what kind of new stuff would you like to see either brought into the game or removed from the game? Or, what do you think would help you enjoy the game more and help you grow within your community? Yes, Halden.
I think this goes for everybody. I think they need to quit adding the new content and start fixing the old content. I mean, they keep adding new monsters, but nobody hunts the old stuff anymore. What's going to happen with it?
Yeah. I also have kind of mixed feelings about that, especially when I see them. Well, my thing is gem spawns, and I do have kind of an obsession about all these gem spawns that are sitting there collecting dust. But you're right, there is a number of creatures that are totally being ignored now. I cannot remember the last time I saw someone go to the orc dungeon, um, except somebody that was actually fighting, that went there, I think, looking for one of the parts for some quest or whatever. But besides that, there's a lot of dungeons that seem to be totally abandoned, so I hear you there. Robes, go ahead.
Yeah, I second what Helen said. I'd love to see the content, hold off on all the new content and fix all the bugs. And even though we're a Trammel guild, is to balance PvP, which they're trying to do now, but all the other skills that they've sort of broken. Thieves are basically useless except for going into Doom and picking up rares unless you're on Siege, although there's some people that still try and pick up some power scrolls or stat scrolls that way. But I think that a lot of the game has gone downhill because they're just trying to put in too much content now.
Question, is it content or is it items? Ammo, go ahead.
I'll answer that question. I believe it's items. This game has become item-based, and if you don't have the right items or the right weapons or armor or whatever it is, you're not going to survive. And like I said, pre-AOS was probably the best time that I've ever played this game because I knew that it was a level playing field. Nowadays you may ask, why do I stick around? Well, the only reason I stick around now is because of this guild and the people who are in it. It's not because of this game. And, let's be candid. You ask me what I think is wrong. I think there's too many items in here. The dev team needs to stop developing new stuff and take that energy and work on fixing the bugs in the game that exist now, like the insurance bug or the teleporter bug. I could go on and on and on with a list, but stop developing new stuff. Yes, if you don't develop new stuff in a matter of time, you may lose some players. But imagine how many players you're actually going to keep by fixing what is broken. Then develop something new and test it extensively till you got a lot of the bugs out of that, and then bring it into the game. That's how they ought to do it.
Well, you certainly put a lot of energy in this one. I can see that you're kind of passionate about this one. The problem is, and you have my vote on this. I too agree that we need to bring in less items and fix more of what currently is there before you add more, because if you already add on, if you put more weight on a table who's got one leg that's not very sturdy, eventually the table will crumble because you add more weight and more weight and more weight without fixing it, and it's just not going to be able to handle it. But at the same time, new expansions do bring in money. Yes, Emma.
Amen. You're right. There's so much on the table now that the legs are splintering, and Band-Aids can only hold so much. And yes, you are right. I am very passionate about it. It gets to a point where what's the point when it's all item-based, and now, they make it even harder for you to get the items. You have to go in with a group, and if your group's not big enough, then you lose all your insurance money, and then you lose the items that you have. Well, you're not doing anything but going backwards then. The concept is to progress in the game. Progression in the game is moving forward, but as soon as a leg breaks and the table falls, all that you've progressed and all that you've developed falls to the floor. Now the question is, how are you going to pick it up and how are you going to fix it? Don't develop something else to stack on a broken table.
I so totally hear you. It's just, I don't know. I know it's hard, and I know that they're trying really hard to get it so that they can please everybody. But I don't know. I honestly don't know where it's going. But I guess we'll just wait and see. I know they're working overtime on trying to fix quite a few things now. So I'm I'm happy about that. Let's just say that we'll see a lot more fixing and a lot less new items. Yes, Emma.
I heard that they were actually creating a shard that was they were going to run their patches on before they actually implemented them into the player shards. Now, whether that's true or not, I think that concept is an outstanding idea. See what's going to happen to the game before you initiate it in the actual game. Grab mouse, please.
Mousy, here is Mousy. Welcome back, Mouse.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very faint, but we can hear you. Alrighty. Geez, time really does fly. I guess while we're talking about creating shards, I'm gonna go ahead with Viceroy's usual infamous question that he always asks every guild that we interview, and every last one of you is supposed to answer it. So get ready. He basically wants to know if they were ever to create a pre-UOR shard, not pre-OS, pre-UOR. So that means way before Renaissance, so way before Trammel ever existed. Would you go for it? Would you play such a shard? So I'm going to start with Ammo.
I would most definitely play on a shard of that nature. Again, stressing equality in player templates. That is like a high point for me. Player equality in templates.
But you do realize a shard like that would not have LRC, and I don't know to what extent they would not add other facets. To me, pre-UR would really mean Feluca only, and so there would be no Malice, there would be no Ilsh, there would be no Doom, or any other such things. So with that in mind, would you still say, yeah, you would play that shard?
Yes, it works for me. I would play that shard because then you are not item-based. All those items are not there. You have an equal playing template, and you have an equal chance with everyone you encounter. It all depends on diplomacy and how you encounter that individual at that time.
Alrighty. Helden, how about you?
Definitely. Well, I personally go, but I really the mover thing.
Well, you're breaking up really, really, really badly.
Any better?
Oh, much better.
I personally would love to see that. I can't see us moving the or anything, but an all basically PvP shard. I mean, you gotta love it.
Okay, I can see who's a PvP fan. How about you, Mouse?
All right, I'm going to try this. I'll speak up as loud as I can without waking the neighbor's dog. I tend to think that a pre-ren shard is such a thing that it's alien to everyone today. I think that people have a affinity to long for the good old days, and a lot of people were having times back then when they were the game was really fresh and new to them. It was a new world, and there's a lot of mystery involved, and I think those glory days kind of memories keep them longing for that. But I'm not so sure that if we went back from all the changes that we've had, many of which are good, like no rubber banding and that kind of stuff. If we went back, I think a lot of people would be surprised at how boring it might be to them.
That's my one thing with people wanting to go pre-UR. I really have mixed feelings about it. I would try it, there's no doubt. Um, but I really wonder to what extent they're not idealizing what pre-UR used to be. And that if we were to revert all the way back to the early days, that they wouldn't go like, oh my God, we don't have this, we don't have that, this sucks. We can't do this anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And they would be like, this really wasn't as cool as I seem to think or I seem to recall it was. But I guess time will tell. Robes, what's your opinion on that? Would you join such a shark?
I would definitely go over and play. Now, that was just before my time. I started playing just after Tram came into being, so I'm used to this. And I read all the comics on I'm a Newbie and saw how much fun it used to be getting killed, every time you turn the corner. And I could probably do it for a while, but I would not want to be the entire playing experience to have to be looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that, but at the same time, I look at people that play Siege Perilous, and that's really what it is. It is Feluca, period. Even though they have all the other facets, um, everywhere is Feluca. So, and they seem to be adapting just fine. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious how I would personally handle it. But then again, mind you, I mostly play Feld, but then again, my shops are in Malice, so yeah, I'm not totally we can go around saying we're Felucans. Yeah, right. We are Felucans only when it comes time to fight, when we're prepared for the risk. But when it's like being prepared 24/7, that's another story. And so I have a feeling a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'll go pre-UR, might sing a different tune once they're actually there. Yes, Emma.
Pre-UOR is no different than running around in Fell right now. The only difference in my vision of pre-UOR is you wouldn't have the items that you have now. Like you were mentioning the LRC suit. So use regs. I mean, we've gotten away from it so far that a lot of us have forgotten basically because we have all this new stuff, and it goes back to building new stuff in the game. Yeah, it keeps it interesting, but after a time it fades like everything else. I mean, it's like in Ish when you went to go shoot or kill Paragons to get the Martys. You go down there now, there's nobody down there hardly. I mean, if it is, there's somebody, down there for fame and karma, and they're not really fighting for, Martys anymore because they're worthless almost. But I wanted to ask you if you could ask Mouse again if there was anything that he wanted to directly say that may or may not have been covered now that he's back in and able to speak.
Yeah, I was actually just going to do that since we're really pretty much out of time. Mouse, you had mentioned that there were a couple of things that you wanted to cover and that I may not have covered. If it's still the case, you might want to do that now because we have like 10 minutes left.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I didn't have a great deal, but I appreciate that, Ammo Man. That's very considerate of you, and Sakara as well. Just a few things. Hitting back on PvP and getting people into PvP, I really enjoy it. And from the onset of when I first got res killed by a bunny rabbit, I, I always aspired to be able to kill the top monster in the game, which is another human being with their mind and their spontaneity. So to get people better involved, I'd like to see them improve the targeting system. I think the tab button should be used for that, and they could get rid of that, using that just for the war mode. And then you could cycle through people and make sure the bars are sticky. So having party bars and just general bars, health bars, that stay around longer than somebody runs off your screen would be helpful for one thing. And also building more macros into the game and fixing some bugs like teleport bug. If they made it where you just teleported to the first acceptable tile nearest the general direction of your cursor instead of making it focus on the tile that you did, they could have it like an area effect kind of spell or something. That would be helpful. I'd like to see other types of battlegrounds where people could PvP, and maybe insurance would be free, or everything would be insured, and they would play for some other reward or control of resources or points towards some artifacts or something like that. I'd like to see them give us blessed deeds as an ability across the board. That way everybody could have a blessed deed. And some things I'd like to see enchanting for crafters with semi-rare ingredients that spawned in the game world, and that way crafters could have an added dimension, and it wouldn't be something that was unattainable to somebody, require somebody to sit in Doom for 10 hours. And I'd like to see town stones or towns houses linked through town signs. We have a town in U on a peninsula, and we have about 20 buildings there, and if we could get them where we had linked teleporters and other options, that'd be really great. And finally, I didn't mean to dog you out, Sakara. We are kind of an RP guild, and to let you know this is a fact, the other day I made kind of a controversial call for the guild, and somebody made a character named Mouse, and they all got torches and pitchforks and ran me out of Vesper. So there is some RP going on, and you can see that we're alive and well in so many facets of the game.
Oh wow! Why did they run you out of? Why did they run you out of town? Was it like a lynch mob? Yes,
That it was. Mouse being the guild leader, unofficial of course, he made a decision about emissaries, and the way he did it and went about it, a lot of people were unhappy at the time, and so we all gathered in U, and someone created a character on their account, and we all grabbed torches and ran him out of town. It was kind of comical. I wish I had a screenshot.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that you got the message on that one. But you mentioned you guys have a town. You, what exactly? You mean like you have like a bunch of buildings together? Did you name it, or is it just like you guys live close to each other?
Yeah, we do. We have a town called Mistwood, and all the houses are named different things. We had a rummery, and I live in the General Rest Inn, and we have a keep there and a tower that is our headquarters called the Eye, and there's a museum and a rune library. There would be a vendor house if we could get it going. So there are a lot of little things. One of our members, Sertle, has a college for young trainees, and it's really decorated nicely and everything. So there are a lot of things we could do together if there were more town abilities, and I'm sure not only me, but a whole lot of other people would love to see that come to pass.
Yeah, well, it's too bad I didn't know actually that you had a town, because when I first thought you guys were a hardcore RP guild, I actually had a few questions regarding that. Fortunately, we're kind of out of time for that, but you're right. I think a lot of player towns could probably thrive a lot more if there were more tools put at their disposal. If you have a large enough town, why not have a working stable? There's so many things that you could have in a player-run town that I think could totally rock. Yes, Robes.
I just want to say one thing real quick before we have to leave, and then I'll let the other three mention or talk about it, and that is one circle, one soul.
Okay. Ammo, go ahead.
One circle, one soul.
You guys are playing with me. Heldon, go ahead.
That's kind of our motto. I just want to throw in the fact people ask, what is GRI? What kind of guild is it? My answer is always, it's not really a guild. It's a circle of friends. We're a family. And, I mean, we have had get-togethers. Some of the members have come across the ocean to meet each other. It can't get any better. I mean, it can't. Well, it can. I hope it does, but it's pretty damn good where it is.
And that was going to be my question before last. Have you guys ever had real-life get-togethers? Emma.
We have. We actually scheduled one. I believe it was earlier this year, might have been last year. Unfortunately, with so many of our members being worldwide, getting everybody scheduled together was almost impossible. There were 10 or 15 people that got together up in Maine, and from what I hear, they had a very good time up there. Real quick, and then I'll quit. Back to the town. If our towns were somehow able to get more notoriety, I believe that would help us out as well. And thank you for your time, Sakura, and I really enjoyed the interview.
Okay, last question. What do you guys have any great plans for the future of your guild, or are you just hoping to get a little more of what you already have for for a long time? Yes, Heldon.
I'd say if we're still here when UO goes down, we've accomplished what we meant to do.
That says it all. Robes, go ahead.
Basically the same thing. I think we're just going to keep on growing. We continue to attract great people, and that's what it is. We're a circle of people that have a lot of fun together. So I think what Ammo Man had said quite a ways ago, he would have quit if it hadn't been for the guild. I don't know if I would have quit, but the guild has definitely made this a lot more enjoyable for me. We've made a great big circle of friends, and every day is enjoyable getting on.
Awesome. Well, Mouse, go ahead.
That's right. We've got everything we want pretty much. And the top item on the list is such a great group of people and friends. And our motto is one circle, one soul. And we illustrate that by having a circular structure in our guild rather than a hierarchical kind of pyramid. So we treat everybody equally with respect, and we feel like that fosters the great environment that allows people to be themselves and to have great friends. And I feel personally blessed to be part of this great group of people, and I think everybody else feels the same way. So my goals for the future of this guild is to keep it together and keep it strong, and like Rob said, we continue to attract mature, intelligent, accomplished, and capable people, and who could really ask for a better group of friends?
Heldon, go ahead.
Sorry, one last comment. If you're in FELU, look for Red Rover.
Okay. Well, we unfortunately already have to wrap this up. I'm gonna give each and every one of you a chance to say a last comment, like a little goodbye comment. And when I get to you, Mouse, if you would also at the same time read give us the URL of your website if people want to read more about GRI, and if people want to maybe join you guys or whatever, just find out more about you. So we're going to start with you, Ammo, if you want to say goodbye to everyone.
I want to say thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. And GRI, you guys know, we rock.
IRL. Okay, thanks. Heldon. Go ahead, Heldon.
I was going to say the same thing. In the immortal words of Peter, we rock. He would have said it if he could have been here today.
Okay, Mouse, go ahead.
That's right. We're one circle, one soul. We span the globe like the British Empire. The gentle rest in, the sun never sets on it. From South Korea to Washington State. We rock. One circle, one soul. And thank you, UO Radio and Sakara, for having us today. We really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Robes, go ahead.
The only thing I can say is the guys in Sweden and Portugal don't call it GRI, they call it GRI. So GRI rocks. Take care. Thanks.
Welcome. Mouse, can you read the URL for us, please?
Oh, yes. I believe it is www.generalrestin.com, and that should take you to our message board. And from there, you'll be able to communicate with us and find out what it takes to join our guild or to hunt us down and kill us if you see fit.
Well, thank you very much. It was the interview of the Gentle Rest Inn Guild of Catskills, and our guests today were the GM Mouse and three of his elders, Amelman, Heldon, and Robespierre. And thank you very much, you guys, for joining us. I had a great time, and thanks to everybody that joined us in IRC, and we will be seeing you again next week for more community interviews. This is DJ Sakara signing off.